Feeling like a bit of a prisoner when it comes to your marketing? I did too, and it wasn't until I quit doing these 10 things that I finally broke free from these shackles and found time to work on my business, not just in it. I quit chasing trends. I had to force myself to stop trying to hop on every single trend that came out. And trust me, I know it's super tempting to want to try that viral dance or use that viral audio in your Instagram reel, or even join a new social media platform like Threads or remember Clubhouse, because everyone else seems to be doing it. And not just that, it seems to be working for everybody else. But here's the thing, trends are fleeting and our time and energy is limited. And so we have to be very picky about where we decide to put our time and energy. And for me, I came to the realization finally that I don't need to be everywhere. I just need to be where my target audience is, where other small business owners are, small business owners that need marketing help. So I don't need to be trying everything under the sun. I just need to find where they're at and speak specifically to them and draw them in. And by focusing on that, I have to think about the bigger picture in my long-term game and not just short-term gains. I quit posting without a plan. For a long time, I was just oversimplifying things, and I would tell myself that as long as I just show up, then I can build a large audience and have a successful business. But here's the thing, is consistency is always going to beat out short bursts of content. And so what that means is I wouldn't have been able to grow my email list to over 1,200 subscribers. I also wouldn't have been able to attract over 7,000 subscribers to my YouTube channel. And I would never have been able to grow a small business on top of working a full-time job if I didn't have some type of game plan put together so that I could share information week after week, and I wouldn't go long periods of just, not showing up because I didn't feel like it. So organizing and having some type of content calendar is extremely useful. It's the one mechanism that has allowed me to send out weekly emails now on a consistent basis for years and to create tons of video content. And I'll be super transparent, but I also think that has allowed me to grow all of that with as little stress as possible. And so if you start the week off on a Monday without knowing what you're gonna share throughout the week or when you're gonna show up or what touch points you have for them throughout the week, then you're setting yourself up for failure. It's a good idea to just kind of have a game plan put together, regardless of whether you do that week to week or month to month. I promise you, by doing that little bit of planning ahead, you're going to substantially increase your probability of showing up that week. I quit trying to appeal to everyone. This was extremely liberating for me, and I can tell you it probably will be for you once you start to do this. But once you realize that you don't want to be for everybody, because if you are, that means that you are wasting money or wasting time and effort attracting the wrong type of people. So here's the thing is, if you're for everybody, there are going to be people that come into your audience that want nothing to do with you, or they're not going to buy your product or service, or they simply are just not the right fit for your business. Marketing is really essentially just figuring out how you can weed those people out really early on in your customer journey, honing in on who your target audience is, what their preferences are, and ideally where they're at is going to help you tremendously when you're crafting your message to them. Let me give you a small little taste of what that looks like. Here at The Seasoned Marketer, we're all about sharing marketing resources with small business owners. At the end of the day, though, we are not a typical marketing agency. If there's a small business owner that wants to hire a marketing agency and pay them a couple $1,000s a month to handle their billboard design or to put together their website or to run all of their commercials, well, that's not what we do. We are for the small business owner that is looking to keep their marketing in-house. And that's why we offer a $50 monthly membership to help support them while they are managing their marketing. They still get access to marketing professionals and can ask us questions, and we can help guide them. But at the end of the day, we don't want to be doing their commercials. We don't want to be putting their billboards up. And so the video content we put out there, the messaging that we use on our Facebook ads, all has to be tailored towards that small business owner that wants to keep and manage their marketing in-house. We can't be trying to attract a small business owner that really just wants to pay someone to do it for them and then forget it. And so if you feel like your marketing just isn't working, this may be the rub. So instead, lean in and try to figure out as much as you can about your target audience so that way you can speak to them in a way that is going to attract them to your business. I quit becoming an expert at everything. I'm still a little bit of a work in progress in this area, but the one thing that I did give myself permission to do over time was to quit being an expert at everything. The truth is that I should be using resources and tools and even outsourcing what I can to professionals when I can. Now, ideally, that comes over time. As a small business owner, you may not be able to do that today, right here, right now. What made the difference for me was that I quickly realized that naturally, I'm a curious person and I like to go down these rabbit holes and figure out how to do things on my own. So I'm a little bit of a MacGyver in that way. I spend so much time and energy learning new things when instead I could be applying that time and energy into something else in my business. And so I'm doing myself a disservice if I don't recognize that it's not worth my time to figure out how to do X, Y, and Z when I could just go on Upwork and pay someone $50, $75 to do it for me. The really cool part is that now with the use of AI, there are so many tools and resources out there that can help expedite some of these tasks that you're doing day to day. And so when I really sat down and evaluated where I was spending the most of my time and then found resources to help me expedite that, it really did save my sanity. Whether it's freelancing or just finding a tool to help you with some of these tasks that you're doing day to day, just realize that you don't have to be the expert at everything and that you can save a lot more time if you just delegate tasks or perhaps automate. I quit obsessing over followers or subscribers. I think because of my marketing background, I was never big on obsessing over followers and subscribers anyways, but it is hard to not do when everybody else out there is growing really quickly, or they're just telling you that that's the one thing you need to focus on, growing a large audience. But here's the thing is, followers and subscribers do not pay your bills. Okay, so it's much more important to grow slowly, but to grow the right audience than to grow quickly and grow the wrong audience, because at some point then you're going to have to pivot anyways. Just like with everything else that we do in marketing, it's all about the quality and not so much the quantity. You could easily run Facebook ads and get those ads in front of a ton of people, but what good does that do you if those are not the right people, if the quality of that lead is not good? You've just wasted a ton of money. So at the end of the day, I always apply that mindset to any type of social media engagement, because everyone thinks that social media is free, but you are spending time, energy, and resources. I quit ignoring data. There's a very good reason why the big dogs like Anheuser-Busch, Coca-Cola, and Sonic Drive-Thru all pay companies to go out and do market research for them. And I know this firsthand because when I was in college, I actually worked for a market research company for a few years. That was an extremely fun job. In any given week, I would go out and round grocery stores to see which beers were, fully stocked and which were practically sold out based on where they were positioned on the shelves. Or I would go to some of the Sonic drive-thrus and sit there and actually do a quick survey interviewing people just to see what taste preferences they had. Same thing with Coca-Cola. They would do blind taste tests. If all of these companies are paying good money to collect data, well, that should tell us that analytics are extremely important. For some marketing initiatives, that's going to be a little easier than for others. Take, for example, if you want to see how well your reels or your posts are doing on Instagram, you easily can go into Instagram analytics and see just how many followers you're getting for each individual post or reel. However, If it's tied to something like a billboard, it's a little harder to do. You got to get a little more creative with it, like creating some type of specific landing page or using a specific telephone number so that you can correlate it to the billboard. The best part about using data to drive your marketing decisions, like which initiatives to continue and which to discontinue, is the simple fact that you can feel extremely confident that you're making the right decision. I quit multitasking. Multitasking is overrated, and quite frankly, I've fallen out of love with it. Now, that hasn't always been the case. If you would have asked me about 3 or 4 years ago, I would have thought that I was a great multitasker and that it was super beneficial to running a small business and working a full-time job. But the truth is that when I sat down and I looked at how much time I was spending on some of these initiatives or these tasks, multitasking was actually very costly because I was not concentrating, and therefore it would take me about 2 or 3 times as long to complete that task. So take, for example, if I was editing a video, trying to write an email, and also kind of scrolling Instagram, then I obviously was going to be there for a couple hours, as opposed to when I decided to stop multitasking and actually set aside time to just do an email, I would get it done in about 20 minutes. Not only did that help my productivity, but it actually helped the quality of my work, believe it or not. Maybe you think that you are great at multitasking. I'm going to challenge you to question that. So back in 2019, there was a study that was published in the National Library of Medicine by Kevin B. Medore, PhD, and Anthony D. Wagner, PhD, and it was called The Multi-Cost of Multitasking. So really what they focused on was answering some basic questions like what happens to your brain when you multitask? Does your brain slow down? Do you feel increased levels of stress? And why are some people better at it than others? What was interesting about this was that the report itself stated that there had to be a lot more research done to actually weigh out the pros and cons of multitasking. So they couldn't exactly correlate that multitasking was beneficial to increasing your productivity. Personally, I could tell you that when I cut out multitasking, not only did my work improve, but I ended up saving a whole lot of time and I felt a lot less stressed. I quit being a perfectionist. I know earlier I told you that it was important to keep quality over quantity, and that is still the case. However, you cannot get hung up on the small details. So in order for you to be able to share your expertise, your experiences, or to draw people into your small business, you need to be able to put material out there that's going to relate to them. Unfortunately, as humans, we know that we're going to nitpick whatever we do before we put it out there. And so the one thing that I was able to do to really catapult and allow me to create so much content, to get weekly emails out there, and to put so many YouTube videos out there was whenever I started feeling like, oh, is this good enough? I reminded myself that the message was more important, and I would always go back and ask myself if the content itself, if the educational part of it was good. And if that was solid, I gave myself full permission to not compare what I was doing to anybody else's business. And to be honest, if I was already pressed for time to be able to dedicate to my small business after hours, before I logged in at work, then what business did I have sitting there spending any of that time focused on someone else's business? That was not going to get me further ahead. I quit overworking myself. Last but definitely not least, burnout is absolutely real. And you have to have a balance of being able to be creative and to show up while also taking care of your health, because it's not going to do you any good if your health is failing and you're just not able to do your day-to-day task. I also made a very important commitment to myself a long time ago whenever I did launch the Seasoned Marketer, that since I was working full-time and also launching a small business, I was not going to give up the important relationships in my life, meaning I was still going to be present. And so for me, that simply meant that I couldn't overwork myself. And I shouldn't, because that would take away from quality time that I could be spending with my husband, my mom, my sister, family members, and friends. Prioritizing self-care and setting healthy boundaries also helps with my creativity and being able to show up and be present the way I want to. Remembering that owning, managing, and running my small business is a marathon and not a sprint has helped me tremendously as far as being able to put things in perspective and to take breaks whenever I need it. Quitting these 10 things made a huge difference in my marketing and my business. It allowed me to break free from some of the shackles I had unknowingly put on myself. But here's the thing, if you're a small business owner that is going the route of do-it-yourself marketing, so managing your marketing internally yourself, this is just the beginning. If you want to know what other secrets big marketing agencies don't want you to know about as a small business owner, go ahead and watch this next video right here.